Yo, I am Guido Jallo, the owner of the Afri-Culture Concepts YouTube channel. Today, I want to demonstrate a brief summary of how S.O.Y Keita illustrates the diversity of the ancient Nile Valley in super-Saharan populations, and how his findings do not support an extreme Afrocentric model, but a realistic model that supports African biological and cultural diversity with a little cultural diffusion in the mix. Contrary to other YouTubers' sentiments like Egyptologists 7 that use outdated papers that Keita may or may not have released in the past, Keita has more recent works that goes against the typical Afrocentric, sub-Saharan only paradigm that this guy fails to bring mention to in order to continue his narrative. To make S.O.Y Keita irrelevant to the bioanthropological conversation, from his paper Genetics, Egypt, and History Interpreting Migrational Patterns of Y Chromosome Variation from 2005, he began with saying modern Egypt, the site of Africa's earliest state, lies near the crossroads of 2 other continents and has had historic interactions with all its neighboring regions. Later, Keita says, the most common variants found in different studies of Egypt collectively are in descending frequency 5, 11, 4, 7, 8, 15, and 12 seen in Table 2a. The first 3 of these are of the greatest interest due to their frequencies. Haplotype 5, sometimes called Arabic, Lukat and Mercier 2003a, declines from Lower Egypt, north at 51.9% to Upper Egypt at 24.2%, and to Lower Nubia, south at 17.4%. Haplotypes 7, 8, 15, and 12 also decline as seen in Table 1. In contrast, haplotypes 11 and 4, called Southern, with 4 being labeled Sub-Saharan, have their lowest frequencies in Lower Egypt, 11.7% for 1.2%, but increase in Upper Egypt, 28.8%, and 27.3%. Later he says, it is important to address the appellation of Arabic for haplotype 5 due to names being interpreted as indicators of origins and the inconsistencies found in the literature. This variant is found in very high frequencies in super-Saharan countries and Mauritania, collective average 55.0%, and in Ethiopia, average 45.8%. Table 2a. In specific groups, its highest prevalence is in samples from Moroccan Amazigh, Berber 68.9%, and Ethiopian Falasha 60.5%. Its frequency is considerably less in the Near East and decreases from West, Lebanon 16.7% to East, Iraq 7.2%, as seen in Table 2a. The label Arabic for 5 is therefore misleading because it suggests a Near Eastern origin. In fact, this variant has been called African, Lukat et al., 1993, 839, Lukat et al., 1996, 469, and Berberian, Lukat et al., 2001, 887. As noted with reservation, the archaeological signal for such movement might be the presence of the Mushabi industry in the Levant that has Nile Valley affinities. Bar Yosef 1987, Miten Trains 2000, the large number of Mushabi sites suggests a major migration. See comments in Bar Yosef 1987. However, this can only be tentatively suggested because there may be little concordance between language family and the distribution of archaeological artifacts. Also, the Mushabi may be indigenous to the Levant. The point is that an African proto-language grouping was adopted by indigenous Near Eastern peoples, based on linguistics and genetics. Eventually a testable Semitic emergence. Reconstruction of this common Semitic indicates that its speakers were food producers and not hunters and gatherers, as were the speaker of undifferentiated Afro-Asiatic. Later there is some movement into Africa after the domestication of plants and ovicaprines, which happened in the Near East nearly 2,000 years before it occurred in Egypt. Hassan 1988, Wetterstrom 1993. Early Neolithic levels in northern Egypt contain the Levantine domesticates and show some influence in material culture as well. Kubisevich 1992. Ovicaprines appear in the western desert before the Nile Valley proper. Windorf and Child 2001. However, it is significant that the ancient Egyptian words for the major Near Eastern domesticate sheep, goat, barley, and wheat are not loans from either Semitic, Sumerian, or Indo-European. This argues against the mass settler colonization at replacement levels of the Nile Valley from the Near East at this time. This is in contrast with some words for domesticates in some early Semitic languages, which are likely Sumerian loanwords. Diakonoff 1981. This evidence indicates that the northern Nile Valley peoples apparently incorporated the Near Eastern domesticates into a Nilotic foraging subsistence tradition on their own terms. Wetterstrom 1993. There was apparently no Neolithic revolution brought by settler colonization, but a gradual process of Neolithicization. Miden Reigns 2000. While some Neolithic movement took place, there is the problem of sifting the results of this from later migration. Also, some of those immigrating may have been carrying haplotype 5, descendants of earlier migrants from the Nile Valley. Given the postulated Mesolithic time of the M35 lineage immigration, The more recent upheavals in the Sudan may also have altered patterns. The social context/circumstances of gene flow must always be considered and ideally understood. The historical linguistic data reported earlier would apply in the case of maternal lineages as well. It can also be argued that it is not likely that the northern genetic profile is simply due to Eurasians having colonized super-Saharan regions from external African sources. It might be likely that the greater percentage of haplotypes called Eurasian are predominantly, although not solely, of indigenous African origin. As a term, Eurasian is likely misleading, since it suggests a single locale of geographical origins. Later, he added that more work and careful analysis of mtDNA and the archaeological data and likely probabilities is needed. Early hunting and gathering Paleolithic populations can be modeled as having roamed between northern Africa and Eurasia, leaving an asymmetrical distribution of various derivative variants over a wide region, giving the appearance of Eurasian incursion. Here, we have clear evidence of S.O.Y Keita showing cultural and biological continuity between ancient Egypt and modern populations of Egypt, as well as ancient and modern populations of super-Saharan Africa and other North African countries, also giving examples of the peopling of super-Saharan populations that led up to Nile Valley civilization and later the Egyptian state, as well as illustrating how cultural diffusion and prehistoric migratory patterns that took place in between North Africa and West Asia during the Neolithic era may have influenced ancient super-Saharan and Northern African development, which is a very far stance from the typical extreme Afrocentric paradigm. Where I believe the real problem lies for Egyptologist 7 is that Afrocentrists may have misused S.O.Y Keita's work in the same fashion that others have misused genetic data to remove Egypt from its African context. Thanks for stopping by for another installment of Afri-Culture Concepts. I hope you like, share, and subscribe so that this channel can grow. Peace.